Hey guys, it is time for a massive video, my top 30 roller coasters in my home country, Denmark. Before I go into the list, I want to note a few coasters that I haven't ridden. The Gøslauge Kiddie Coaster Kampala Express at Knuthenborg Safari Park, and also Mariehønen, the in-house coaster at Brændegårdshaven. I do not expect any of these to make the list if I have ridden them, but considering we have only non-waggy worms that I haven't ridden in Denmark, I have to note them. We are gonna start this list at Fårup Sommerland with our number 30 spot, Miniexpressen, the Vekoma Junior Coaster at Fårup Sommerland. This is a great little family coaster. I mean, yeah, it has some pretty good positives, some slight laterals, and it have a location in the forest. Nothing special at all, I would say. Not the most comfortable, decent the themes, but yeah, nothing to write home about. Number 29 is a funny one because that's Victor Vandorm at Bonbonland. For example, Miniexpressen is a lot more forceful. To be fair, it have a better location in the forest. But the thing with Victor Vandorm is it's so incredibly long and it's just a journey. To me, it feels like a train ride on steroids because, of course, it's more fun than an average train ride, but it still have little to no forces. It just have the speed and the fun factor of it just being like a massive journey through Bonbonland. Let's talk about the first spot that could be really controversial, which is Rutsjebane at 28th spot. This ride is just pretty terrible in terms of how it rides, in my opinion. It's not that rough, however the restraints makes it feel so much more rough than it is. It digs into you so hard and it is super uncomfortable. But yeah, in terms of elements, this have three elements that I like. The first, the lift hill, and the first and second double down. The rest of the ride, the turns are scenic and fun. However, the other hills, I'm pretty much in pain because the restraints have digged into my stomach so hard. If this ride didn't have the classic feel of being an old scenic railway, this wouldn't crack the list at all. However, if this ride had kept the Brakeman, this would probably be in the top 15 because I love the atmosphere of this ride. And yes, I'm even putting a kiddie coaster model ahead of it. This is Bisværm and Rally 88 in Tivoli Friheden and Sommerland Sjælland. I definitely prefer Bisværm, but yeah, I only have footage of Rally 88. This is a fun model. I mean, you can say whatever you want for me having this highly, but it's a blast. If you sit in that front car, good chance of getting some really good spin, and it is just incredibly fun. It throws you around a bit, especially for a kiddie coaster. Number 26 goes to Typhoon, the Samperla spinning Wild Mouse coaster at Tivoli Friheden. This is a fun coaster, I would say. The spinning is not too extreme, at least it rarely is that, even if you sit both in the same side. However, it's still a really fun little spinning coaster. This is 25 spots goes to Flying Eagle at Legoland Billund. This is a lot more fun than it looks. It actually has some pretty good force to it. Also, it had a slight moment of floater airtime, and then the turn just after that is actually really positive heavy, really intense. It also have a section where it twists you from side to side that gives some fun lateral pops. After that, it had a reasonably fun helix, and after that, it's done. But it is still a lot better than the other Sira Force coaster in Denmark, which is Den Vilde Hønsejagt at Djurs Sommerland. Number 24, we have a somewhat overrated coaster in my opinion, which is Saven at Fårup Sommerland. This ride is smooth, it's comfortable, it's fun, but it's not more than that in my opinion. The drop is pretty fun, then have three floater hills that give a tiny bit of floater, but it's really not that noticeable at all. Then the tunnel gives some decent laterals and the spike is really fun up front. But the backwards part is kind of dead in my opinion, so I can't put it higher than this. Number 23 spot goes to Extreme Racers at Legoland Billund, a Wild Mouse from Mack Rides. It's a really fun coaster. I love Wild Mouses. The first drop here is great. The turn just before the first drop is excellent. Great laterals there. Then the switchback section, which is pretty tall here, is pretty fun. I would say some good laterals. And then you have a really good section with a drop down to a turn, down to another drop. That's the best lateral movement on the ride for me, but after that, the ride is dead. Next up, we have the other Mack Rides Wild Mouse in Denmark, Die Vilde Mus at Bakken. I do prefer the standard layout. Extreme Racers might have more standout elements, however this one had the best element and is also more consistent. I mean, Extreme Racers had the second half, which is completely dead. This one doesn't. There's great laterals throughout the ride, all the drops are fun, and also the best element that I talked about is when it had like 2 turns in a row and then a steep drop, which is the biggest drop in the ride also. That part is so fun, pretty aggressive. Next up is Vildkatten at Sommerland Sjælland, the Pinfire Cyclone. This is such a mixed bag because some parts of it is excellent and some parts are not that good at all. I mean, it had 2 standout elements for me. The major one definitely being the first drop, which actually have some insane eject airtime in the back row. Other than that, the loop is pretty fun. It's just not the most comfortable ride because after the loop, I'm really just waiting for the ride to be over because it's not that comfortable at all. And also the seats and just the vehicles are not that comfortable at all. So I really like this for the first drop and a little bit for the loop, but that's it. Number 20 spot goes to Mælkevejen at Tivoli Gardens. I think I kinda have a weakness for powered coasters because I tend to rank them higher than most people do, and this is just a really fun one. It's super smooth, you have some great laterals entering and exiting the station. The helix on top of the building is great also, some good positives there and some sustained laterals. And then I also have a little zigzag section where it twists you from side to side, which is really fun and gives some, not strong, but just fun laterals. And also these power coasters just feels like a journey through a part of the park. And I really like them. But I do think T-Rex Family Coaster at Djurs Sommerland is a better power coaster. The thing with this one is it only had 2 laps, and the first lap is actually really slow. But that is a part of the overall experience, and the theming here, this is themed to dinosaurs and you're taking for this trip. You even have some onboard audio, as well as an amazing station and a good queue line through dinosaurs. The ride itself has a super wacky layout, but the forces you really only feel them for the second lap, but the second lap is great. For example, the helix, it has a helix here which is great and gives you a funky feeling of laterals. That gets you get like 3 doses that get stronger from each one, and some pretty sudden laterals other than that also. It's a really fun ride, also super smooth. So a lot of spots ahead of Typhoon at Friheden we have Flagermusen at Fårup Sommerland, which is the same layout. This is built by Reversion instead of St. Peter though, which makes a huge difference. I mean, this is a little bit smoother, it feels faster and the spinning is a lot better. And other than that, it's located in the forest, so this is a really fun spinning coaster, a lot better than Typhoon. Number 17 spot goes to Dragekong at Djurs Sommerland. This might seem low for some at first, but I used to have this a lot lower. When I first rode it, I actually love it. I don't really know why I love it that much. Then I started to hate it. I don't know why I hated it that much, but I think I found the balance now. This is a fun ride. It is super rattly, and the pacing is pretty bad. However, it's still fun and still has some positives that are actually pretty good. Also, it has great theming and a incredibly unique dispatch where it actually launches you straight away from the station. So overall, a super fun ride. However, I can't rank it any higher. For the next spot, we stay at Djurs Sommerland for Skatteøen, the Mack Rides water coaster. As a coaster, Dragekong is probably a little bit better. However, the fact that this is a water coaster and you get wet from this is a massive plus on a hot summer day. And also it has a little sailing section that I also really enjoy. It's also an absolutely beautiful coaster and the queue line is pretty good also. The thing with this one is that they also have the 2 standard moments here are definitely better than the best element on Dragekong, which are definitely the drop and the floater airtime hill. Both give some really pleasant floater airtime. Number 15 spot goes to Orkan at Fårup Sommerland, another suspended coaster. This one is shorter than for example Dragekong is. A lot shorter. It is way more smooth, and it have a couple of really good elements. Like for example the drop here. For some reason the drop here is way better than the drop on Dragekong, even though it's not as steep. I think it's because of the trains. And the drop is actually quite whippy in the back row. The overbank is also a lot better than Dragekong's overbank. Other than that, this follows the terrain extremely well, especially in the second half of this ride. Overall, it's just a really nice, pleasant, smooth coaster. At number 14, we have what I think is actually the weakest in terms of the coaster layout on the list, in the entire list, and that's Dragen at Legoland Billund. But of course, this one had to be high because, yeah, like 80% of the ride is a dark ride, and that dark ride is probably the best quality dark ride in all of Denmark. So this is ranked highly because of the amazing dark ride section. The ride is also super well presented with this massive castle, the pretty good themed queue line, and then that massive door that opens for the dark ride section. The outdoor part itself, you could remove that and this will only drop a couple of spots, because it's mainly because of that dark ride section that is even on the list. Next up we have Thor Sommer at Djurs Sommerland. This ride is just incredibly fun. I love Gerstlauer bobsled coasters. They are pretty much my favorite family coaster model because they made so many excellent rides and some of them are even amazing. Thor Sommer is just really fun. Some good fun laterals, a really forceful valley in the first drop, a really snappy first drop also, really fun. All the helixes here are super fun, pretty forceful also, and the bunny hills here are the weakest point of the ride, but they're still fun. They're just like fun to go through, but they don't really provide any forces other than a slight pop-up floater on the last one and the descent to the last mid-course brake run. Number 12 spot goes to the lone B&M in Denmark, Dæmonen at Tivoli Gardens. This ride is probably one of the most intimidating rides to look at for the GPs, but when you go on it, you will find out that it's not that bad at all. It's not that extreme. It's just a really pleasant experience with a great theming, some great near misses with the plants. Some near misses you could argue are even too close, but I kind of like that. Other than that, make sure to be on the left side back row if possible, because that's the best seat in this ride, in my opinion, for sure. The drop will be really floaty there. The two first inversions will have some pretty good positives in the valleys, not extreme, but pretty decent. And then the COG roll will be really nice and floaty, and you have a pretty good transition towards the end of the ride, and a little hop of airtime into the brake run. Really fun ride. Number 11 spot goes to Vildsvinet at Bonbonland. This is the world's first Eurofighter, and it is a really good coaster. The first drop here is amazing, definitely one of the best drops in all of Denmark. You get some really good ejector airtime. And then the overbank is pretty fun, and the loop is pretty forceful also. And then I have a little hop of floater into the brake run. But this one is, it doesn't have that many elements. Many things Dæmonen does better than Vildsvinet, but because of the first drop, I still prefer Vildsvinet. And I still think this is an excellent coaster. Number 10 spot goes to Polar Explorer at Legoland Billund. This ride is super underrated for many. I mean, this is a great coaster. Don't let this be fooled by being at a Legoland park, because this is a family full coaster in my opinion. The two helixes this ride have is some of the best positive moments on any coasters in Denmark. Also, this ride have two decent pop-up floater airtime, and of course it has its really unique element, which is the drop track moment. Really sudden, just a really good fun element that actually gives ejector airtime. The show scene at the drop track is not so good though, because the quality is pure, it's just a screen, and other than that you can see the entire structure, so that's kind of a failure in my opinion. Other than that, it also have living penguins this ride. How cool is that? I mean, this ride is awesome. Number 9 spot goes to Handkatten, the Gerstlauer spinning coaster, another really underrated coaster. This one is just super fun. I think many people don't appreciate it because it's a cloned model. However, there's only one of them other than that, and also it doesn't matter at all. I mean, it's a fun ride, so why not clone it? The switchbacks are so much more fun on these Gerstlauer spinning coaster than they are on average Wild Mouse and bobsled coasters. They're just so fun, and they sometimes really get your vehicle spinning, and you really get pushed back to your seat, which is super fun. The double helix on this ride is absolutely insane if you get some really good spin. And also this ride has some really good floater airtime in the last few pops. Just an overall pretty intense family coaster that can get extremely fun if you get some good spin. An even more underrated ride is Mine Train Ulven at Barken. This coaster looks like a Vekoma mine train almost, but on steroids, but this ride is built by Intamin, and it is awesome. Most helixes here pull some really good positive Gs. The drop here is absolutely crazy. In the back row you will get some really good laterals and also a little pop-up floater airtime. The nearness at the bottom of the drop is amazing. The positive inner valleys of that drop is also really good. It also has some great laterals going into the helixes before it transform into positive Gs, and also the location right in the forest is amazing here. And the contrast of playing radio pop in the station and then going out for a ride in the forest is just such a barking thing to do. And if you know barking, you probably know what I mean. I really love this ride. I really love this park also. The top 7 is where it really starts to get good. At number 7 we have Lynet at Fårup Sommerland. This is a great Gerstlauer launch coaster. Really fun layout, especially the first third of this ride with the amazing launch, the great top hat that gives some good laterals and some good sustained dose of floater airtime, and then a good ejector camelback and some ejector up to the mid-course brake run. And if you trim you in this brake run, you'll get what is a standard Lynet ride. But if it doesn't trim you, you're in for a treat for the last part of the ride, but also in for a bit more of a uncomfortable ride. You will get some headbang on this ride, and it is definitely more noticeable if it doesn't slow you down on the mid-course brake run. I still prefer it when it doesn't, but there's positives and negatives about it. The tuned versions give some good hang time. However, if it doesn't slow you down, they're whippy. They fly for these inversions. You also get some good airtime into the last mid-course brake run, and if it doesn't slow you down at all, this will be the strongest airtime pop on the entire ride. The last helix is pretty good, but also pretty headbangy. Overall this is a mixed bag for me because it's not the most comfortable ride. However, it has a really good combination of elements, and also it is a really intense ride. This is probably the most thrilling ride of the park, even after Phoenix, the new ride. I just want to note also that to get a trimless ride is incredibly rare. I've only experienced on one of my visits, which is the last visit I got to this park. So I basically just rate this after a trimmed ride, because that is definitely the most usual to get. Number 6 spot I have Falken, also at Fårup Sommerland, the SNS wooden coaster here. This coaster is rough, so it's not for everyone, but believe it or not, for me, I think the roughness adds to the ride. I think it's better with it than without it, because this ride feels so out of control, and that is part of that is because of the roughness. It's also just because of some really good laterals, some really good airtime moments also. The first drop here is super weird, how it goes like almost halfway down, then a little bit up, and then it drops you. And that gives some really good ejector airtime in the back row. Other than that, every hill here gives some pretty good floater. In the front row it would be flow ejector. However, I still prefer it in the back row for the flow. I think it flows more natural over the hills in the back row. But yeah, there are definitely moments that are better in the front. I mean, for example, the first camelback, I can't deny that's better in the front. That little hill that goes up and twists you to the left, that gives some really good laterals, and that is definitely more pronounced up front. But overall, I love wooden coasters. I love them when they're out of control, and Falken certainly is. They have so much character to it, and therefore I love it. Number 5 spot goes to Juvelen at Djurs Sommerland, the Intamin double launch coaster. This is a super fun family thrill coaster. First of all, it is one of the best theme coasters in Denmark. The presentation is great, the queue line is great, the station is pretty good themed, it have an amazing soundtrack also, and it have a pretty good pre-launch show on this ride also. It's themed to that you're on a hunt for that jewel that someone stole, and you need to get it back to the temple. And then you go outside with the first launch, which is pretty good, pretty decent. The first half isn't that special at all, it is still fun. The first big hill is definitely the worst part of the ride. It kills some momentum, which is a shame, but after that, it is just pure fun, this ride. After the second launch, the section that comes right after that is absolutely insane. If your entire ride was like that, because it's a long ride, I think I would rank this as the best coaster in Denmark, because that section is just so ridiculously good. It is amazing. Some of these twists and turns are great, especially in these exposed ATV seats you get on this ride. And yeah, also the positives on this ride is amazing. This is the best ride in Denmark for positives in my opinion, or at least the best coaster in Denmark. So overall, Juvelen is an amazing coaster, and I wish I could rank it higher, but it has too many dead spots in the beginning, and also the last couple of hills doesn't give any airtime really. So therefore I can't go higher than number 5. As much as I only rank Phoenix at Forbes Summer at number 4 on this list, I am not disappointed about this ride. This is pretty much what I wanted Forbes Summer to get. This is a extremely fun, extremely smooth, extremely comfortable coaster that have a little bit of everything, and I love this coaster so much. The only thing I'm disappointed about is actually the lack of theming and audio. If they give this coaster a soundtrack, it could even move up a spot on this list. But as it is now, I'm going to rank it here. I still think it's an amazing coaster. It provides some really good airtime, both floater and ejector. The first drop is amazing, especially in the back row. You'll get whipped down that drop. The first element, the first inversion stall loop is also amazing, gives some really good hang time. It's definitely better in the back row where you get some great airtime and some decent whip out of it. The hardline roll here is definitely my favorite element and one of the best elements of Denmark in my opinion. It is super whippy, gives some good laterals and airtime at the same time. And also the station fly-through is super fun. The finale with these quick bunny hills that give some weak but really fun ejector airtime. All of this coaster is just incredibly fun and I love it so much, and I'm so glad that we finally got a coaster on this scale again in Denmark. The reason it's only ranked at number 4 is because my top 3 is truly special for me, and kicking up the top 3 is Tornado at Bakken. There's something truly special about this ride. The anticipation you get just from raiding in that station and can hear it roaring around in the building you're raiding in. Sitting there waiting for that launch to kick in, the chain lift launch thing, and then waiting for that drop that you just know is going to be absolutely insane. Which makes perfectly fine sense because the drop is probably similar to stuff like Handcat at Mont Blanc. However, this one launches you over it. You almost reaches your top speed, I believe, before going down that drop. And then the first little section outdoor is, or after the drop, is absolutely insane. Really intense also. Then the middle section dies out a little bit. But yeah, the middle section feels like, for example, Handcatten, a average spinning coaster for the families. However, it kicks things up late on the ride again with a pretty good twisted atom hill, a really intense turn again, and then the last little helix turnaround thing and pop of airtime into the brakes is absolutely insane again. That moment is also one of the most intense moments in Denmark. I think the last moment and the first drop on Tornado is probably the two most intense elements in all of Denmark. And the drop here is maybe the most intense drop on any ride that I've ridden. So yeah, amazing coaster, so unique and so special for me. Number 2 spot I have Piraten at Djurs Sommerland. So I think I need to explain this one because last time I made one of these countdown, Piraten was ranked at number 3 in Denmark. Now Phoenix has opened the tallest and fastest and one of the greatest coasters in Denmark, and now it's number 2. The thing is, in that period, last time I made this list, I rode Piraten so much and I got a little bit tired of it. I came to a period where I almost preferred Juvelen. But then it happened that I came back after a break where I hadn't ridden Piraten that much. And I kind of had a mini marathon on it, and it moved up so much. I love it so much more again now. The ejector on this ride is absolutely nuts. The laterals on this ride is crazy as well. The positives is really good. Funnily enough, the first drop here is great but not amazing. You get some pretty good floater up in the back and a decent pop up front also. The first turn is amazing, so sustained, positive, it's great. I grey out on almost all rides. The first twisted hill is one of the weakest hills, but it's still pretty good, gives some good floater up front and some good whip also. The first camelback is amazing, gives some good sustained ejector airtime up front special. Then the twisted trio is amazing. Funnily enough, my friend Flo have a theory that the back of each car is more intense, which is probably because it's a little bit elevated. And I find that to be true, so my favorite seat is actually the second to front, funnily enough. But that trio is amazing on that row. It gives you some crazy whip, some great lateral, especially on the last one, and some really strong pops of airtime. The bunny hills are also really good, give some good pops of ejector airtime, especially the second one is just as sustained as the first and a little bit stronger, so that is amazing. And yeah, this ride is just insane from start to finish. I love this ride so much. I definitely think this is, the layout-wise, the best coaster in Denmark. But as a number 1 spot overall, I have to put my little gem, Rutschebahn at Tivoli Gardens. It's obviously not as relentless as Piraten, it doesn't have the insane first drop as Tornado, and it doesn't have the variation of elements as Phoenix. However, this ride has so much more than that. It had the overall amazing atmosphere around this ride, the history around it, the onboard brakeman that adds to the ride, the amazing atmosphere of the station as well as on the entire layout. And also, this ride have one of my favorite theming on any coasters in Europe. And on top of that, this ride still have an amazing layout. It is extremely smooth for its age. It has some really good ejector airtime on all of the drops, except the second one, the big one actually. But yeah, still have some good floater. And yeah, up front you get pushed up the hills and give some good quick pops of airtime. But in the back row, you get pulled, and that's where you really elevate from your seat. You can get a good bit of room and still hit the restraint on most of the hills on this one. But it's not only about the airtime, this also have incredible laterals on most of the turns. Of course, both airtime and laterals really depends on how good the brakeman is, but luckily most brakemans on this ride run it absolutely nuts. And if you get an amazing brakeman, this coaster would be even higher in my overall rankings than it already is. This ride is absolutely amazing. I love it so much. It really have a special place in my heart. So of course I'm a little biased, but trust me, even without the bias, this is still an amazing ride. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. What's your favorite coaster or top 5, top 10 in Denmark? Comment down below. Bye guys.